What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz, the #1 small business directory and Discord for stock traders at trysmallbiz.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about a stock that was up 141% in the pre-market when we pulled the ripcord at $1.40, only to see it go all the way back down to 71. So the obvious question of this day is, why in the world did we just buy it back last trade 80 cents a share? And what in the hell happened in the first place? All that and more coming right up. Wow. Happy Thursday to you, ladies and gentlemen. This video is going to be very illuminating. You're going to learn exactly what I think happened this morning. Millions to one. We went from a 50% drawdown on paper to a 20 to 30% profit, pulling the ripcord at 7 a.m. at $1.40, only to watch this thing completely fall apart early on with the rest of the small caps. And then it looks like, again, last trade, 81 cents in a share, that we're not only out of the ditch completely, but we racked up in some cases 30 and 40% profits for our newest members and reloaded the gun. So before I get into all that and give you what I think is the #1 possibility in terms of what happened, why is the market up a few hundred points today? Why did we just reclaim what we lost yesterday after Jerome Powell was talking? Let's keep it simple, stupid. We are in the midst of the 4th industrial revolution. And while some of you snowflakes keep telling me that things are just god awful out there, and I am empathizing with those of you that are struggling, I got news for you. It's going to be flying cars and trips to motherfucking Mars. The productivity gains, the amount of money coming into the market by way of the millennials and Gen Z, something called artificial intelligence, $7 trillion of done retail money that didn't buy the stock market when I told them to in the last week of October is going to come roaring into this market. And when you know who comes back in the second week of November, off to the races for the next 4 years. Let's see if I can lose somebody else. You're goddamn right. Actually, excuse me, Lord. You're motherfucking right. You can call me a Trumpster. You can call me whatever you want. All I can tell you is I don't want that fucking clown, that geriatric fool that's in there now. And they can try and cheat all they want. But something tells me that based on the polls in swing states where you know who is up across the board as much as 10 points in purple Nevada, there's no way in hell that clown that can't even fill a fucking a phone booth at a rally is going to win. So I want somebody back that's a champion of the fucking stock market, the economy, going to seal up our borders and get us the fuck out of foreign wars. So yeah, you know who is who I'm voting for come November of this year. And what you gonna do when the Hulkster runs wild on you? Wow, I feel sorry for people that missed that 30 seconds of fame right there. All right, look. Jerome Powell is not here to wreck the market in an election year. They're going to start cutting probably in May based on feedback that they're tossing out through the tea leaves today. That's why the market's back up, right? The market wanted cuts in March because we do have a slowdown here. We've got warnings from Honeywell this morning. Before that, it was UPS. Some of the tech stocks that got blasted yesterday, a bit of a bounce today. I do think the top at 429 on the Qs is going to stand. But as I've been saying now for weeks, we're either going sideways or down to kiss the 50-day moving average, which is 3 or 4% from current levels. Once we get in and through that, as we go into March, April, and then the cuts in May, I think it's going to be a choppy summer. And then when you know who shows up in November, as was the case 4 years ago, when we were up 1,400 points the following day, we are setting the stage for one of the biggest bull markets in human history. And you, or at least some of you and me, are going to make a bloody fortune from now until 2035 when this secular bull is due to end based on demographics and a few other things. So what in hell happened this morning now that I pissed off, lost, irritated? You know what? It's about as real as it motherfucking gets right here. I've got a friend that stands with me at all times. It's Charlie Brown, and you're damn right. He tells me what the fuck to buy and what the fuck to sell. He said, hang in there on that ELAB when we were down 40% plus on paper. And he said, pull the ripcord this morning at 140 when I had some clowns inside of the fucking Discord trying to tell me that they weren't going to take a 24% profit. You mean the same stock that you were down 44% on the other day? How about you motherfucker, the one that quit? When I told you to sell it at 140, how's it feel right now? Last trade, 79 and a motherfucking half. ELAB came public in November at 4. Got knocked down to $1.50. I became interested. Skincare, stem cell, etc. Growing at 104% year over year. Tiny float. A lot of it locked up by the insiders, but they're knocking it around like crazy that I'll get to in a second. But we started buying the stock in the 150 range. And then it went all the way down, mostly on naked selling, because as I shared inside of the Discord by way of the horse's mouth, the insiders are locked up for the rest of the year, and there is no stock coming for sale anytime soon. So they took it all the way down to 62 cents a share. And I had a red light on that thing from $1, 90, 80, 70, 62. And then last night, boom, there was action around 6:30, 7 o'clock to as high as 85 cents a share. It closed 69 and change on the dot at 8 p.m. We all go to sleep. Charlie included. We wake up, it's up 50%. Then it's up 60%. Then it's up 100% at about 5 o'clock. I don't trade early in the pre-market. I don't recommend the commie site that's incorporated in the Cayman Islands that starts with a W. If you're going to trade between 4 and 7 a.m., use Interactive Brokers. But I think it's the biggest destruction of human life because we need sleep and we don't need all the fucking scams. How'd you like to be a retail bag holder, right? The ones that bought our fucking stock at $1.40, or when Tammy Murphy inside our Discord sold hers at 153 on that commie site that starts with W. How'd you like to be holding that bag when you were cut in half in less than an hour? Huh? You don't do that. If you use those early morning brokers, use it to sell only. You do not buy stocks that are up 50 to 100% plus. So obviously something was going on last night. I upgraded it. But as I heard from another asshole this morning, well, why didn't you tell us you had a 65 limit and it was upper 60s? I didn't pull the trigger and I just missed doubling my money. Don't let the door hit your ass. Actually, don't let the door hit your candy ass as you head out the door. Millions to one that you have a stock you start accumulating at $1.50. Your average is $1.25. It goes all the way down to 62. Shows signs of life. I upgraded the stock last night, and then it gaps up to as high as $1.68. A 50% drawdown turns into a 20, 30, or for some of you, 40% profit. You pull the trigger. I said it was managing risk when I sent out the notifications that would have went to your phone and or your desktop. I had every intention to buy it back. And it came down, and it came down, and it came down. $1.10, $1, gave up $1.90. In the 80s, I started buying. And it went as low as 71. And shout out to the other asshole. You wonder why I get shadow banned. I really don't give a fuck. Well, it looks like we missed that one by a dime. You wonder why I'm somewhat gray? You wonder why I have days where I'm ready to fucking bang my head against a brick wall until the blood rolls down into my eyes. There it is. There it is. Our phone, toll-free number rings off the hook. DMs every day. People coming and going, although the quit rate is way down because we got some people. Yeah, we don't edit around here, so if you're new, welcome. People that are fucking tough. They can take a punch. They understand that you got to fucking take some pain. You got to be willing to endure a drawdown 40, 50% on paper if it still makes sense to own the stock because anything can happen. How about the CNXA? I said no at $1, no at 80, all the way down to 30. I said, go ahead and buy it. It went down to 15 cents, and then all of a sudden, yesterday, it was up at one point by more than 400% at 73 cents a share. So what once again was a 40% drawdown turned into a 200% gain if you pulled the ripcord at the top. It ain't over, especially when it comes to this guy, until it's over. And even when it is over, it ain't fucking over. In closing, what do I think happened? Well, It's one of two scenarios. Stock comes public at 4, gets hammered all the way down to 62 cents. I'm all over investor relations. You may have seen me. It went back and forth 20 times. And I want to know, where's the dilution? Are the insiders selling? What's going on with the contracts? Explain to me why you bought that company, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I still had every confidence in the world that we were ultimately going to get some or most of our money back. But through the grace of God, it turned into a 50% drawdown and then a massive gain at the open. If you didn't pull the trigger, you're hanging onto the bag, the same one that you fucking had yesterday. But what I think happened is either a group of Reddit maniacs, and it's possible it was them, but I think it's most likely an institution, were in there last night covering a short and or accumulating a position. I went back and looked from the close in the mid 60s to as high as 84. There was only about 1.3 million shares that traded after hours. So let's call an average price of 70 cents. It was roughly $1 million worth of stock that was bought from 6 to 8 p.m. on the close. The same group was in there this morning, most likely with their bots, and I'll explain what that means in a second, juicing up the stock. And here comes the weeble, dumb motherfucking retail money. Or go over to Stock Twits and scroll all the way down. To 4 o'clock. In that 4 to 6 o'clock window. I'm not a member, but I love to see how stupid these idiots are. I just took a starter at $1.40. I got this at $1.30. Decapitated. So they accumulate or cover a short last night, most likely accumulate. They get the bots in there early in the AM and they get all the dumb retail money lathered up. They probably went short because there was 10 million shares that traded over $1.25. Let's say 4 or 5 million shares. And then there was no news to support the stock, so it started coming down. And then the dumb retail money that bought it at $1.30 panics when it breaks $1. I got my stop loss there, and they got cremated. And the bots, the machines, the algos kept leaning on it, and it came all the way back to its pivot. It broke out at 70, went to 168, came all the way back to a whisker above 70. And that's when I was in there. I started buying in the mid 80s. I got some as low as 74. Last trade, 79 on the nose. So we went from a 50% drawdown to basically break even across the board. And people that were cut in half made fucking money. While these machines, these algos, suck in all the dumb retail money. We're getting to a place right now where 80% of the volume is a machine. They program it. Okay, when the RSI is here, when the stochastic's there, when it does this, when the Bollinger Band's that, when the moving average is blah, blah, motherfucking blah. And they're in there with no feelings, no emotions, just absolutely taking apart the dumb retail that's loaded up with ego, right? They panic at the lows, they get greedy at the highs. So whether they're trying to set up a short or they got long last night and they blew it out and most likely started buying when it hit 71 and ran to as high as 83.5, who fucking knows? All I know is until next time, always remember that I love you in what was a bit of a wild video. And thank you so much for watching. Did I mention that I'm fucking voting for Donald J. Trump?